Namaste. Namaste, everyone. Welcome to Yes Talks. Today's session is titled Maheshwar Sutrani, Shiva Sutram. Our guest speaker is Mr. TSC Easwaran. Easwaran sir is a chartered and cost accountant. He worked in the corporate world for over 3 decades in senior capacities in MNCs. Currently, he is a senior partner in Cadence Management, offering various financial services to corporates. Samskritam, often referred to as the mother of all languages, fascinated him greatly, especially its grammar. Turning interest to passion, while doing financial consulting after his corporate career, he pursued twin master's degrees in Sanskrit, specializing in Navya Vyakaranam and Prachin Vyakaranam. He is also a volunteer in Mirambika School, teaching Samskritam to students of 6th, 7th, and 8th standards. Easwaran sir, welcome back to the Yes Talks platform. We are so glad to have you with us today. Look forward to a really interesting session with you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Agajanana Batmarkam Gajananam Aharnisham Anegadantam Bhaktanam Ekatantam Upasmahe Shruti Smruti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pad Shankaram Loka Shankaram Vivekinam Mahaprigyam Dhairyam Audharya Shamanidam Sada Sivanavapurvam Tam Vidyatirtha Gurum Bhaje Bharati Karunapatram Bharati Padabhushanam Bharati Maharudam Bharati Tirthamashraye Vidya Vinay Sampannam Vedaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvagyam Vidushegara Bharatim Apara Karuna Sindhum Jnanatam Shantarupinam Sri Chandra Shekhara Gurum Pranamami Mudanva. Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Ramesh Bijlani sir and Ms. Arunima Pathak for giving me this opportunity again. The subject which I have attempted to take up in this session is called Maheshwarani Sutrani. We will delve into majorly on the grammatical aspects of these sutra and a little glimpse on the philosophical aspect as we close this session. Let me start with the prayer. Nirtavasani Nataraja Rajo Nanada Dagkham Navapanchavaram Uddarshu Kamaha Sanakadi Siddhan Etat Vimarshe Shiva Sutra Jalam. So this sloka describes the way the Shiva Sutras were born. So Nritta Vasani, in the time of dancing, Nataraja Rajaha did the Dakka. Dakka is the Damaru. Nanada Dakka, Nava Panchavaram. Nava Pancha, 9 plus 5, 14 times. Uddardu Kamaha Sanakadi Siddhan. The Sanakadi Siddha, they absorbed this and they gave us this Shiva Sutra Jalam, a wonderful one. So we will see the next one. Enakshara Samamnayam Adigamya Mageshwarat Kritsnam Vyakaranam Proktam Tasmai Paninaye Namah. We will go into the words a little later. Essentially, to Acharya Panini understood this akshara called Samamnaya, Adigamya, Maheshwara, from Maheshwara. Then he completely gave the Vyakaranam. Krishnam means completion. Vyakaranam Proktam Tasmai Paninaye Namah. Then there is one more sloka. Atra Sarvatra Sutreshu Antyam Varna Chaturdasham Datvartam Samavadishtam Paninyati Ishta Siddhaye. This is the first and the third sloka is from Nandikeshwara Kashika, which we will see at the end of this session. So essentially, this says that all all the sutras, the last letter is the source of Dhatvartam. As you see, the entire Sanskrit, the root is the Dhatu, where all the words are created. Then, of course, we start, whenever a grammarian starts, he prays to the three munis, Vyakaranam Vararucham, Bhashyakaram Patanchalim, Paninim Sutrakarancha, Pranatosmi Munitrayam. This Munitrayam, Panini, Vararuchi, and Patanjali, we pray and start this session. So, the plan which I have for this session is that I will introduce, of course, Acharya Panini and Maheshwar Sutrani, and we will see the 14 sutras, how they are divided, and there is an attachment to each of the sutra. We will see the use of that, and we will see from the sutras how Panini created pratyaharas, and also a general rule which Bhagavan Patanjali enunciated based on this sutras. Then we will see some of the application which Panini did of these sutras in his Ashtadhyayi, and we will conclude it with some other very philosophical interpretations, a glimpse, and then we conclude. So, it is said, I'm quoting from Siddhanta Kaumati, that Acharya Vanini did the tapas on Shiva to get the Shakti to compose Sanskrit Vyakaranam. We should say that this is a complete Vyakaranam, and they said this is applicable both for the language and also the Vedas in terms of the tenses, the swaras, etc., etc. At the end of completion of his tapasya, Bhagavan Shankar appeared and danced his Ananda Tandava. And as he danced, there are other people witnessing that, especially Sanakati Munis, essentially Sanat Kumara, Sanatana, Sanananda, and it is also said Vyagrapada and Patanjali also witnessed this dance. And as there are, during the dance or at the end of the dance, he sounded his dakka or dhamaru 14 times. So the Sanaka and Sanandana, Sanatana, Sanatana and Sanat Kumara absorbed these 14 sounds, including Panini, and created this 14 sutras called Maheshwar Sutrani. And there, Panini started to compose his magnum opus, which is now celebrated all around the world as one of the highest achievements of human intellect, called the Ashtadhyayi, containing around 4,000 sutras. The estimated time is about 350 BC. We will discuss the small definition of a sutra in the later, and we will see how a sutra is defined by our forefathers. So these are the Maheshwarani Sutrani. Ayun, Riluk, Eong, Ayauch, Ayavarat, Lan, Nyamagananam, Jabhai, Gadadash, Jabagadash, Ka, Pa, Cha, Ta, Ta, Chatatab, Kapaya, Shasasar, Hal. I am repeating again. These are the 14 sutras. Ayun, Riluk, Eong, Ayauch, Ayavarat, Lan, Nyamangananam, Jabhai, Gadadash, Jabagadash, Ka, Pa, Cha, Ta, Ta, Chatatab, Kapaya, Shasasar, Hal. Iti Maheshwarani Sutrani Adi Samyartani Yesham Antya Itaha Lan Sutra Akarascha Hakaradishu Akara Ucharanartaha. So these are the 14 sutras as interpreted by Panini and Sanakadi Muni. And this is actually considered as a Upadesha by Shiva himself. So when there is a Upadesha, then it achieves the level of Veda. That is why it is called Akshara Samamnaya, equivalent Veda. Even to the extent on the Shravan Mas Purnimasya, when Vedabhyasa starts in all the Patashalas, they recite the few parts starting of all the Vedas, and one of the recitation is Maheshwar Sutrani. So they recite this, and the students also recite it along with the teacher as a part of Shravan Purnima Parshala, beginning of the Veda Abhyasa. So the last letter of each sutra is called It Samja or an Anubandha. Okay, it is when we create certain words along with this, the last letter is dropped. It's only an Anubandha. Okay, like for example, Una, that in Ayuno is the Anubandha, it is attached. Same thing with the second sutra, Rik, that K is attached. Like that, in each of the sutra, the last letter is what is known as Anubandha. Okay, I will come back to slide as we refer to many things regarding this sutra. The first four sutras, if you look at it, it contains all the swaras in the language. A, I, U, remove the Anubandha. R, A, O, I, Au. These are the basic vowels of in Sanskrit. Please also remember when I say A or E or U, it also means the dirgha, where I say A, that A, dirgha is also included. E, that E is also included, like that. Okay. So the first four sutras are called these, refers to the vowels or swaras. And the balance 9 sutras refer to the vyanjanas or the consonants of the language. I'm just saying that Esham Antya Itaha, the last one we saw, the was called Anubandha, it's called It Samja, it is called It. Samya means a name, it is called It. Her. And if you see the sixth sutra, before that I will go to the line, Hakaradishu Akara Ucharanartha. If you go from the fifth sutra, which is this one, and the 14th sutra, if you take each letter, which say, let me say, ha, the Vyanjana is actually h. So for pronunciation, they have added the a. Like we say, lan, l is the actual Vyanjana. To pronounce it, say l plus a, la. So hakara dishu, from akara, starting with akaraha ucharanartha. So that is for ucharanam. Let me come to the previous one. Lan sutre akarascha. It actually means this akara goes with that esham antya itaha. Lan sutre akarascha. In Lan sutra, the akara is not ucharanathan, is actually a it samya or anubandha. If you look at the sixth sutra, it has got lan, that la, that a is actually a it samja or anubandha. We will see it, why it is done like that in the later part of it. I will refer to it, why it is done like that. Okay. So just to repeat for this thing, the first four sutra are swaras, balance 10 sutras, 9 sutras, it should be 10 sutras called Vyanjana. And A in each of these is only for pronunciation, like we discussed, ha plus ha we say it. In Lan Sutra, that is the sixth sutra, the akara is anubandha. We will see it later. So, having got this from Maheshwara, Panini started to construct few things. So he prepared what is known as a pratyahara. So it starts with the dhatu hri, means to take, harati means to grasp, and it put two prefixes called prati and a. Prati plus a plus hru, it's a pratyahara. Pratyahara means is to collect, or samshet karna, to shorten. There are other meanings also, but in this context, it is to shorten. So what he did was, I'll go back. He took the first letter of the first sutra called A, and he took the last letter of the fourth sutra, which is the Anubandha Cha, and he combined them and made a word called Ach. When he said in his grammar Ach, it means all the letters from A to Cha except the Anubandha. Drop the Anubandha, which is Na, Ka, Na, and Cha. If you drop all this, Ach means I, E, U, R, R, A, O, I, O. That means when you say Ach, it refers to all the vowels. We will try to do that when we say Hal, Ha, and then La, Hal, it actually covers, drop all the last Anubandhas, we will have all the Vyanjanas of the language. This is how he created the Pratyahara. So, like as I said, when I say A, it also means the Dirgha, that two matra A. You will also see that this particular construction of Maheshwarani Sutrani does not contain some of the things which we usually use, like Visarga. Let's say when you say Rama, we will say that Ha is not part of this. We also use Anuswara. Instead of writing Ma, we use a dot as Anuswara. It is not there. And there is also Jihva, Mulya, Ubatmaniyam is not included. Bhagavan Patanjali included them in two pratyaharas called At and Shar. When you see At and Shar, it actually means you call from A and go up to the last of the fifth sutra, At. That means all these letters. Here, the Anuswara and Visarga gets included. When you say Shar, it is the 13th sutra, Sha and Ra, Shar. In these two pratyaharas, he included Visarga also. So we will see this as interesting one. Let me go back to this Sutrani again. You will see that there is I, E, Una, that is Na here, and there is Lan, there is another Na here. Okay. And there are two Ha, that is a Hayavarat, and then the last sutra, Ha. So naturally, the doubt is that when I say An, In, Yan, which na to be included. So in Panini Ashtadhyayi, various authors have said there are standard 44 pratyaharas which are included, and there is a doubt. Okay. And in his commentary, Bhagavan Patanjali said that if there is a doubt, you should not just reject the entire Shastra. You should go to the learned men and wise men, ask for explanation. What is this? What is the explanation to this double use of certain things in any Shastra? So he established what is known as a paribhasha, called a general rule. It is called a paribhasha. Vyakyanato Visesha Pratipattihi Nahi Sandehat Alakshanam. So, Vyakyanato Visesha Pratipattihi. By explanation to understand, you remove your doubt. Vyakyanato Visesha Pratipattihi. Nahi Sandehat. If you have a doubt, that doesn't mean that particular satra is alakshanam, is wrong or mistaken. So this is a very important paribhasha which is used by many people in the Sanskrit world or in any world, that simply because you have a doubt or you have a genuine question does not make the Shastra wrong. So when you are in doubt of Shastra, you seek your explanation. You should have the faith in the Shastra and try to understand what Shastra actually tries to say instead of just rejecting it. Especially in the modern times, this is a very unfortunate behavior, that we question our Shastras without making effort, seeking out learned and wise men ask for explanation. Okay. So Bhagavan Patanjali actually said that in the sutra, Anudit Savarnasya Cha Pratyaya, that an is where the later an should be taken, that is from a to the lan, that an should be taken, not the first sutra an. All otherwise, in any other sutra, the next an should be taken, not the one which is except the sutra, which I referred as Anudit Savarnasya Cha Pratyaya, which is first chapter, first pada, and 69th sutra. So he explained for this particular sutra, you take the second and for everything else, you take the whatever is the n comes subsequently. For example, if you say in, it is actually means, let me go back to the sutra, I, un. When I say in, you will say e and u only. These are the two letters which is referred. When I say this is the para an, when I say yan, we will say ya is here, yan is here, ya, va, ra, la is the letters we take when somebody say yan. Okay. So this is the explanation given by Bhagavan Patanjali, and a very important paribhasha. Again, repeating it, Vyakaranam Vishesha Pratipattihi Nahi Sandehat Alakshanam. So he created these 14 Pratyaharas and he went on to compose his Ashtadhyayi grammar sutras. We will see around 3 application of this Pratyahara in sutras. Okay. So what is a sutra? It is defined as Alpaksharam Asandigtam Saraswat Vishwatomukam Astopam Anavadyam Cha Sutram Sutra Vido Vidahu. It has 6 qualities, 6 lakshana. One is Alpaksharam. It should have very few letters, concise. It should be Asandigtam. It should be no doubt, unequivocal, very clear. Saraswat. Saravad means only essence should be there, no extra string should be there. And Vishwato Mukam, it should be universal, it should be applicable to the entire world. And Astopam, it should be succinct. There should not be anything which is not required there. And it should be Anavadhyam, it should be no mistake should be there, it should be blemishless. This is the definition of a sutra. So if you see the one like say Alpaksharam and there is no extra, when in every sutra, Bhagavan Patanjali in his Mahabhashyam will discuss what is the necessity of that particular padam, what is the necessity of this particular word, or what is the necessity of the sutra itself. So sometimes he will say this particular word is not required. Without this word itself, the sutra makes sense. And he will also say sometimes that this sutra itself is not required. Because without this sutra, that particular work which is attempted by the sutra can be achieved. But at the end of it, he will say that the entire Ashtadhyayi itself is a Veda. Sheer Parayanam will have Adishtapalam. So you should not disturb the Ashtadhyayi Krama and you should recite it. In fact, a lot of people will recite Ashtadhyayi like a Veda Parayanam. So the first sutra in Ashtadhyayi is called Vriddhi Radhaich. It is, Padacheda will be Vriddhihi Ad H. You can now see H is actually a Pratyahara. If I'll go back to the one sutra, when I say, if you see the 4th sutra, it says Aich, I-O, Cha, using the Pratyahara which we learned. Aich means the letters I and Au. Okay. So Vriddhi Radhech means the letters A, I and Au is called Vriddhi. Okay. So we will see a lot of things. We use it very, very normally in our daily speech. We will say Bhagavan Krishna is Vasudeva. So when you want to say the son of Vasudeva, we will actually do the vriddhi of the first letter. Va is the first letter of Vasudeva. We expanded. When I say Vriddhi, we will expand it to A. Vasudeva. Okay? Like Draupadi, Drupad ka putri is Dhru, and Dhru will become after Vriddhi Draupadi. We will see a lot of things like Kunti, the sons of Kunti is called Kaunteya. So Ku becomes cow. So this Vriddhi is done with using these letters. But instead of saying A, E, Au, he will say Vriddhi Radech. They will just say that these are the four letters. So even in this one, we will say there is one called Tata Agataha, meaning that from which it came from. This Maheshwara Sutra came from Maheshwara. So we do the vriddhi of the first letter Ma, and we will say Maheshwara. And Sutram, if know that it is an Apumsakalinka, like Phalam, Phale, Phalani, the Bahuvachanam is Sutrani, and the adjective Maheshwara should follow the same lingam, same vachanam, and same vibhakti of the noun. Therefore, it is converted to Maheshwarani Sutrani to be correct usage of Sanskritam in saying that. So, Maheshwara Sutra is referred with what came from Maheshwara becomes Maheshwara, and to have the same lingam, vachanam, and vibhakti of Sutrani, it is called Maheshwarani Sutrani. Okay. Like we say all the 14 ones and say Iti Maheshwarani Sutrani. Okay. Let's go to the next example. Very interesting. It is called, comes in Sandhi Sutras. It just say Eko Yanachi. Okay. The Padavicheda will be Ikaha Yan Achi. So when you say Ik, it means it starts with the first sutra, second letter A, E, and ends with the Anubandha of the second sutra, Rik. So the Ik means the four letters E, U, R. We also seen Yan. Yan is coming from the fifth sutra, Hayavarat. It starts with the second letter and ends in the last Anubandha of the sixth one, which is Lan, Yana, which has, that means the Yan contains Ya, Va, Ra, La. And of course, Ach, we saw the first four sutras, contains all the vowels. So, Eko Yanachi means, essentially, it means that in a Sandhi, Ik letters becomes Yan letter when Swaras follows them. That's what it means. If you see a Ik letter and the next letter is a Swara, the Ik letter becomes Yan letter. So there is a question which says, which one will be replacing what? Can E be replaced? Why are you saying E will be replaced by Ya, not Va? So it is called, there is another sutra for it, Yata Sankyam Anudeshaka Samanam. In English, we will say respectively. When we say respectively means first one goes first, second one goes second, third one goes third. So to define that, he says Yata Sankyam, when the Sankhya is same, like E, U, R, R, 4, Ya, Va, Ra, La, 4. So each one goes, first one goes first, second one goes second, third one goes 3. There are other rules for it, but we will restrict to this. So we will see Dadi, Atra. Dadi, the last letter is E. It is followed by A, so that E becomes Ya. Dhadyatra. Like for example, in a lot of slokam, we will see Namami Aham. That means E, the last letter, the first letter of the second word is A, which is a swara. We will say E becomes Ya, Namam Yaham, Madhu Iti Madviti, Sadhu Idam Sadvidam, Pitra Icha, that R becomes Ra, Pitricha. So just imagine to explain this, how many words which we have to use in English or any other language for explaining this Sandhi. by using pratyaharas and certain other rules, Panini say it in 3 words. Just say eko yanachi. That's all he says. The entire meaning is derived from these 3 words, and he goes on. That is the perfect definition of a sutra with clear explanation, which is applicable everywhere, which has no extra words, and it is absolutely no mistake in this. Eko yanachi. So by using Maheshwarani Sutrani, preparing pratyaharas, and having some rules around, he completely shortens the entire Sanskritam grammar in around 4,000 sutras. So that is the power of this Ashtadhyayi and Maheshwarani Sutrani. I will do one more example. We said that earlier that in the 6th sutra, Lana, the Lakara Uttaravarti Akaraha is not Ucharanartham, it is actually Anubandha. We will see that in one sutra. We will say Uran Raparaha. With Padacheda will be Uhu Ana Raparaha. Essentially, it means that any letter A, I, U, okay, Uran, An, okay, letter appearing as an Adesha in place of Rikarha. When these letters appear as a replacement in the sthana of R and R, these letters always gets followed by R and L. So when you say Ra Paraha, that letter R means not only Ra, but also the letter L. I will show it to you. I'll go back to the sutra and say how it is done. When you look at this Ra comes from the 5th sutra, 4th letter, Aya Varati. He takes Ra, and I said that the Lakara Uttarovarti Akaraka is Anubandha. So he makes this Pratyahara Ra plus A, which is Ra. But when you say Ra, it includes this Repaha and Lakaraha. So to ensure that Ra Paraha Ra includes Ra and La, we have said that Akara of La is actually Anubandha, not a Ucharanartha. Okay. That is the essential understanding why we are saying Ra Paraha means also you should include La. So we have used this Karta. We know what is the meaning of Karta. It comes from the Dhatu Kru, and there is a Pritya called Trich. Then when I say Ru becomes Ka, it is also followed by Ra. We will say Ka plus Ik plus A plus Ra and Ta, Karta. Same thing, Karta. And there is for Ru, there is Tavalkaraha. Tava Rkaraha is called Tavalkaraha. It's a name of a rishi in Samaveda. It is also a shaka of Samaveda, which is actually not available nowadays. Okay. So we gave 3 examples of pratyaharas are used in Ashtadhyayi, which reduces the volume and the requirement of repetitive lessons to all the letters, and it also makes it very easy for memorization. We saw eco energy, we saw vriddhi radhech, we also saw ruthandra pra. The entire Ashtadhyayi contains a lot of pratyaharas, which grammarians will know it by heart. They will know that if this means these are the letters. I'll give you some general pratyaharas used. Okay, let me go back to this sutra. I told you about ach. If I say ha and go up to sh, we'll say hush. It actually contains all the mridu vyanjanas of the language. Hush. If you say khar, meaning that ka, pa, cha, ta, tha, it includes all the karkasha vyanjanas of the language. So these are some of the things which we use very often to refer to the letters in Sanskrit language in a short way. So we saw the Maheshwara Sutras and its use in the grammar. There is a very philosophical interpretation of the sutras by none other than Lord Nandi himself, who always plays the mridanga when Shiva dances. His work is called Nandikeshwara Kashika. It is very, very difficult to understand. It is very, very highly philosophical, very mysterious. And there is fortunately, there is a commentary written on Nandikeshwara Kashika by Rishi called Upamanyu. And I will give you just a glimpse of what this Nandikeshwara Kashika comes. It's taking the first sutra and how Nandikeshwara interprets it from a philosophical viewpoint. So Nandikeshwara wrote the treatise on Shiva Sutras. It is a very well-known treatise, Nandikeshwara Kashika. You can actually see it in the Internet Archive if you search for it. It contains just 27 karikas with commentaries by Saint Upamanyu, and it actually expounds the Shaiva philosophy or Advaita philosophy. In the beginning of the presentation, I gave two shlokas from the Nandikeshwara Kashika. We referred it. Nritta Vasani Nataraja Rajau Nanadadakkam Navapanchavaram Sanakadi Siddhan Uddartu Kamaha Edat Vimarshaka Shivasutra Jalam. We saw that. We also saw one more shloka on that. We will see two shlokas, how he interprets the first sutra, i.e. Una. This is actually a I.E. Una and Shiva Sutra hologram, which is made with all the Shiva Sutras. Akaro Brahma Rupaha Syat Nirguna Sarva Vastushu Chit Kalam Im Samasritya Jagat Rupa Un Ishvaraha. Essentially, it means Akaro Brahma Rupaha. The letter A is the form of attributeless Nirguna Brahman, and it is the essence of all the aspects. Syat Nirguna Sarva Vastushu. It is underlying as a Nirguna in all the objects. Chit Kalam Im Samasritya. It combines with the consciousness Im, and it becomes a Jagat Rupa U. Una Ishvara. It is the form of the universe. From a Nirguna Brahma with consciousness, it becomes Saguna Brahma. That's what he interprets as A-I Una. We also see one more sloka. Akaraha Sarva Varna Graghyaha Sarva Varna Graghya Prakashaha Parameshwaraha Adyantyena Sanyogat Aham Etyeva Jayate. Okay. It says Akaraha Sarva Varna Agrahya Prakashaha. The letter A is essentially a luminescence of God himself. And it forms a conjunction with the last letter Ha. Very interesting. If you see the first letter of the first sutra, it is A. The last letter of the 14th sutra is Ha, Hal, the Ha from Hal. So Aham is formed by these two conjunction. Okay. So Aham essentially means Parameshwara himself, and between these two becomes all the letters and all the beings and all the creation himself. So I also remembered when I was reading this, there is this very famous work called Tirukkural by a Tamil sage called Thiruvalluvar. Narendra Modi is trying to promote this particular grantha all over. He has done it all over the place. So the first Kural or the first verse of this thing is called Akara Mudala Ezhuttalla Adi Bhagavan Mudatre Ulahu. So Mudal in actually it means first, but it also means the foundation or the capital. When you are starting a business, you need a capital. You need to invest money, create the business, and earn morning that. That Mudal is also means capital. So Akara Mudala Ezhuttalla. the source of all akshara is akaraha. So only when you say a, all the other vowels are created a, then you put your tongue on your palate and say e, then you'll say u by combining your lips. So all the others are created from the base sound akara. So that also means that A is not the first letter of Sanskrit language. It is the first letter of the entire sound system called the world language itself. Whether it is Tamil or Marathi or Sanskrit or Bengali, the first letter is A, which is referred as Nirguna Brahma and which totally transforms into Saguna Brahma by combining with the other letters. So the letter A is the beginning of the entire language. So Nandikeshwara goes on to interpret every sutra from this Advaita philosophy and the Shaiva philosophy, and he has written a beautiful treatise. And Upamanyu has done a very interesting commentary on these sutras himself. So that's to recap. Lord Maheshwara sounded his Damaru 14 times, or Dakka, and Maheshwarani Sutrani were born. Based on this, Acharya Panini composed this Ashtadhyayi. From the Shiva Sutras, he constructed the Pratyaharas, how concisely he made it to refer to the letters he wanted to indicate. And it is used very extensively in his Ashtadhyayi. And it also gave a very interesting paribhasha or general rule called Vyakaranam Visesha Pratipattihi Nahi Sandehat Lakshanam by Bhagavan Patanjali. So when you have doubt in the Shastras, seek explanation from the learned, not reject the Shastra at all. Have faith in Shastra, they are eternal truths. And this is a very important paribhasha in the current times, especially. And we also saw how Nandikeshwara wrote a treatise on Shiva Sutras in 27 Karikas, explaining the Shaiva or Advaita philosophy. So I come to the conclusion of this small presentation on Maheshwara Sutrani, and I hope everybody is able to appreciate the length and depth of the Shiva Sutras and the usage in the Ashtadhyayi and in the philosophy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ishwaran sir. Thank you so much for this crisp and very interesting and educational talk for all of us. Thank you so much, sir. Participants, anyone wants to ask or share something, please go ahead. You can drop your messages in the chat box also, or simply unmute yourself and speak. Dr. Bijlani sir, if you are there, would you like to share your thoughts?
First of all, let me thank Ishwaran ji. He is one of those rare bridges that we have still available between our glorious past and the present. He's so learned in the Sanskrit language and the ancient Indian literature, and at the same time, is speaks and knows English so well, and is so well versed with the modern technology. So he's himself an IT professional. So that type of a combination is so rare, and we're very happy that he gave us a glimpse of something which was so concise and yet so meaningful. That is, in fact, the beauty of the Sanskrit language. It is very precise, very concise, and yet so beautiful. A very difficult combination to achieve in any language. Most languages, if they become very concise, then they become rather sterile. And if they become, try to get sort of artistic and a little musical, then they become more expansive. Sanskrit has that beauty of being concise and beautiful at the same time. I'll not be able to say much about this subject because that is something which I know nothing about. But at the same time, and there were many things which were extremely educative in this session. One of the things that struck me was that these sutras were instructed by Lord Shiva himself. And Panini just became that channel for putting it down in writing. Now, this is something I think which each one of us, no matter in what type of creative sphere we are involved or engaged, we should be aware of, because the ultimate source of whatever we create is from the divine. It comes from there. And the more conscious we are of it, the better the product that we get. In fact, we had a talk recently by, I think, who was Christopher Crooks, who talked about the higher consciousness in creative writing. Now, whether it's a writer or anyone who is creating something, if he realizes that it's coming from there and makes a conscious effort to connect himself to that higher source and acknowledge that with gratitude for being the channel for that, then he becomes an unobstructed channel for passing on, communicating what comes from there to the creation that he produces. And that, in fact, gives the best. And someone like Rishi Panini, who became a totally unobstructed channel for communicating to us the very sound that came from the Damaru of Lord Shiva, has been able to give us these sutras, which are so meaningful, so concise, and yet so meaningful. So concise that, in fact, most people probably will not be able to figure out what it really means. And it took Nandikeshwara to interpret them, Upamanya to give further commentaries, and that is what has given us the Shiva philosophy, which is still alive, particularly in Kashmir. And so the Shiva philosophy and Advaita, which is in fact not significantly different from any other school of Advaita, including Sri Aurobindo's. Sri Aurobindo's life divine is also essentially Advaita with a certain emphasis, type of emphasis, but essentially it was an Advaita non-dualistic philosophy. So how it, just from, say, the first one that was expanded, the Ayuna, so A, U, E, U, how they together give us both the manifest and the unmanifest divine, and how that supreme consciousness, when it chose to manifest itself, became the manifest form, the Akshara Brahman, assuming the form of the Ishvara and giving us the universe. So, and then how in every language in the world, the first letter is A. So at least that continuity is there. And how Aham includes everything, because it includes the first and the last letter of the Devanagari script. So it includes everything. So when we say in English that if you, instead of writing self with a small s, you write it with a capital S, it equates the divine, actually essentially means the same thing, which means that if I'm aware of my divinity and I try to express it as much as I can, then we are all in fact divine, or at least as Swami Vivekananda said, we are all potentially divine. Now, since these starting points in many of these ancient literature, in much of this ancient literature is very concise and sometimes cryptic, we tend to have doubts. And that was another beautiful thing that Ishwaranji said, that if we are in doubt, better to consult someone who is wise and learned instead of becoming judgmental, which is a very modern tendency. We not only are judgmental, we also feel entitled to give the final judgment, pass the final judgment, which is absolutely ridiculous. We pride ourselves in being rational, and yet feeling that if I feel that something is wrong, it must be wrong, as if we can be the final judge of what is right and wrong, is itself so irrational, because our knowledge as well as judgment is finite, whereas truth is infinite. So how can anything finite judge something which is infinite, that we, without realizing that, we become so judgmental. So I was very happy to see, although the number of participants were very few, but within these small number of participants, we had for quite a long time Eva, who is from the UK, and Raquel, who's still there, she's from Argentina. So within such a small audience, we had two from distant lands, which just shows that interest in the uh, Sanskrit language and Indian culture in general is becoming more and more common, sort of. It's becoming more and more universal in the rest of the world too. And this is something which is a matter of pride for us in a way that it's now having an appeal for many parts of the world. And in fact, the best or sort of most popular export products of India today are yoga, Buddhism, and Ayurveda. And Sanskrit is not far behind. I'm sure that Sanskrit will again become yet one more of our exports, which will do a lot of good to the world. I may now say something which is a little personal, although I don't tend to be mean to be parochial in nature. My mother tongue, Sindhi, if you see the names of people, these second names, they all end in an Ani. We spell it as A-N-I, like Bijlani. But then it's because of the way it is spelled in English that we tend to call it Na. But if you consult someone who tries to speak pure Sindhi, then he will not say Bijlani, he'll say Bijlani. Now, the way it is Maheshwarani came from Maheshwar. So in the Sindhi language also this Ani signifies exactly the same thing. So you take the name of one of the ancestors and the interpretation of the second name is that you use the name of some ancestor and add an Ani to it to indicate that this person came originally from this person. So that is the significance.
Oh, how interesting.
That continuity from the Sanskrit language to the second names of the Sindhi language is remarkable. So these were some of the things that struck me. So let me, with these general sort of generalities, let me thank Ishwaranji once again. And we hope to have him once again on this platform. Especially there's one talk pending on
yes, sir.
the subject
Gita
that he has
Gyan.
been teaching in Mirambika, the Gita
Yeah.
Gyan. So
okay.
we
will
look
do
forward
that.
to that session in the near future.
Okay.
Thank you, Ishwaranji. And thank you all for being there. And I'm sure many more will watch this recording and benefit from it when it is uploaded on YouTube.
Thank you, Dr. Bijlani, sir. Ishwaran, sir, we have a question in the chat box. I'll read it out. Please see if you would like to answer. Can you explain the sandhi of some words? For example, how does Nandi and Ishwara become Nandikeshwara instead of Nandishwara?
Okay. You're able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll give you an example. Balaha means a boy. It also the same means called Balakaha. That ka is added is a pratyaya which is called Swartha Parthya. It doesn't change the meaning. It is same artha remains, but you add a pratyaya. Balakaha. Like Bala is a girl. Balika is also a girl. That ka comes. Okay. Balakaha. So when you say Nandi, Nandikaha, and Ishwara, Nandikeshwara. Okay. So ka pratyaya is Swartha pratyaya.
Thank you,
I
sir.
hope Subramaniam got answered. Okay, he's the one I can see it in the chat box. Yeah.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the session. It's actually a bit heavy. I hope I made it a little less stressful. Okay, thank you. Oh.
It was really interesting, sir. And before closing, I would like to inform everyone that the recording of today's session and all Yes Talks is published on our YouTube channel, Yes Spirituality. You can visit the channel for extensive content on yoga, education, spirituality, and related subjects like self-help, psychology, and wellness. And we are also present on the social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, Please do join us there. Thanks once again, Ishwaran sir, and thank you participants for being with us today. We'll close today's session now with a moment of peaceful silence. Namaste.
Namaste.